The G20 is upon us. Delhi is in shutdown mode, but India is opening its arms to the world. The G20 Summit, as I said, is finally upon us. And speaking about that is the Ambassador of Denmark. Ambassador, thank you so much. Freddy Svane, you're joining us on the Times Network. Can I start by asking you what the whole feel, or as in Hindi they say, the mahal is like for you, given the fact that you're almost half Indian. You've been in and out of India for 11 years.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, I think India shines, and you would like to show hospitality. And of course, you have shut down, you have clean, you have whatever, beautified. But that's part of it. It's like inviting your family for a big feast or a party at your home. You like to present the best image of yourself, and that's happening here.
And we are having a big party, and we are hoping to have a green party as well, and Denmark is helping us out with that.
Exactly, because the world is really at risk if we do not put together all our global efforts. And luckily this Indian G20 presidency has taken up this challenge and trying really to build a bridge between the poorer part of the world, namely the global south, and the richer part called the global north. And India has put out a compass pointing the needle towards a global agenda where we will be greener, better and more sustainable. And that's fantastic. Congratulations.
And Denmark is advising us on this.
Yes, we have to, because we are so good at it. And years back, we were forced, decades back, in fact 50 years ago almost, we were forced to change our style of life. We were so dependent, 100% dependent on fossil fuel. Suddenly we had no supply. We had to reinvent ourselves, and we were forced to develop renewables, and it has become a great success. Job creator beyond imagination. But we have also done our contribution to a better world. We did not have the scale, and therefore we made the Green Strategic Partnership with India, and that is based on 5 S's, and they're very important. Scale of India, skills of Denmark, speed, because we need to take action, scope, we have to do things just not only for ourselves, but for the rest of the planet, and sustainability. That's exactly what we are trying, we try to advise India about, because we were invited by the Indian presidency to be part of that, and we are proud to see that the outcome, whether it'll be a joint statement or whatever, there will be a footprint that guides us as a world towards a better future.
So India has made strong commitments to a better planet, a greener planet, to a more sustainable planet. But look at the reality of the situation, Ambassador. By 2030, Denmark is hoping to cut down its emissions by 70%, and India will probably have doubled its emissions by then, despite our best intentions. I want you to speak a little bit about the green transition that was forced upon Denmark in 1973. Here you have a major crisis. 90% of all your energy supplies, energy needs are being fulfilled by oil imports. Those imports stop. There is a crisis, there is a big crisis. But look at your journey since then. Since the 80s, I believe, your GDP has doubled, but your energy needs have increased only by 6%, and your water consumption has gone down by 40%.
Exactly. That's the skills of Denmark, and that's what we have really brought, transferred to India. And you can do it. And I'm so happy that the Honorable Prime Minister and the Indian government and India as such has taken the same kind of decision to move towards that kind of trajectory, because we can develop, we could develop, we have developed, and yet we were able to cut down on our energy consumption, on our water consumption, but also, perhaps more importantly, the CO2 emissions has gone down drastically as well. So there's not only one answer to all these challenges that we are facing, but there is a commitment to do things from the Indian side, the Indian presidency side, and the skills that we have been advising, inspiring India about, is now taking its own shape here. Can be done.
It can be done, you say?
And it should be done.
It should be done. It's important in the times we live in. 50% of Denmark's energy comes from solar and wind energy. Now, many critics could argue, and many skeptics actually, not critics, could argue, that look at the size of Denmark. The population is lesser than Delhi. I mean, Sweden and Denmark put together is probably Delhi's population, and India is 1.4 billion people.
Exactly, but that's not an issue. The issue is how can we take our skills, meaning our technologies, our practices, towards the rest of the world. And with the scale of India, even the smallest drop of what you're doing in India, if it is times 1.4 billion people, we have a huge impact. And if you turn it around, if India is not doing anything, if we're not bringing from the rich part of the world, if we were not bringing in our, let's say, experiences and technologies, where would this planet then be? We'll have a total collapse. So 1.4 billion people will make a huge difference. And given what you are into, I'm pretty sure that you, let's say, in 20 years or so, you will see a huge positive impact in what you are doing. And 6 million people, yes, but think about if you split up the Indian continent into 10 Denmarks or 40 Denmarks, you can do it. And I see so much progress here, and I've seen it with my own eyes. Looking towards the COVID, I mean, I was here, suddenly there were no cars in the streets, and we could breathe fresh air. People living close to the Himalayas, suddenly they could see it. So we also have a common human understanding that if we take action, we can come very far. And 6 million people can inspire 1.4 billion people. I tell you, we'll do it, we have done it, and we'll do it in the future as well.
So before we move on to other things and slightly more controversial things, I quickly want to talk to you about the Green Strategic Partnership between Denmark and India, started in 2020. What's the one big highlight that you see bearing fruit in 2023?
It's the whole concept of bringing in these sustainable technologies and skills. And you know, we are not in a position where we can teach and preach. We have really given up on that, and luckily, because we can only inspire. I cannot tell you what to do. I can inspire you. You might follow my advice or not. This is what is the biggest thing of this Green Strategic Partnership. And on the Indian side, if I may say, it has been labeled as a model agreement. So telling others what we did with tiny Denmark, tiny little bit Denmark, is a model for the rest of the world. And see how India is also really targeting the global south and talking to whatever recipients that will be in Africa, Latin America, and so forth. See, there is an example. We can do more. We should do more. So we see a direct link between our Green Strategic Partnership and what is happening here in 2023, and supported by the G20 leaders.
Actually, the challenge and the success will lie in decoupling your GDP from energy requirements. Denmark has done it.
We've done it.
You've done it. You've doubled, as I said, your GDP, but your energy consumption has just gone up by 6%. Let's come to the slightly more controversial things.
Before you're asking me that question, I will add one thing which I think is so important, because you gave the right equation here. But your presidency and your prime minister is speaking about human-centric approach. And I think that will be the big next leap into a better, more sustainable future. And it's not controversial. We have to put the human being, each of us, and those who have nothing really, into the center of what we're doing globally. Now you can ask the...
Now I can ask the China and Russia question.
If that's controversial.
What do you make about Xi Jinping and President Putin giving the G20 a miss? It's deliberate. It's deliberate. Probably it's orchestrated as well. What do you make of it? What does the European Union make of it?
I mean, the G20 is a leader summit. So if leaders, for whatever reason, they decide not to attend, there's a signal in that. But the countries are here. But of course, given the geopolitical context, and if we talk about Russia started an unprovoked attack on Ukraine almost 2 years ago, we have seen really devastating consequences for the rest of the world. Talk to the Africans. They are suffering from shortage of food, fuel and fertilizers. The same here in India, the same across the world. So why a war? Because you are looking for some gains that you have for nationalistic reasons or whatever. It's a stupid thing. Why should we have a war? I have lived almost 66 years now in Europe, on this planet. I never thought I would see a war. So it's really unfortunate, and there must be a strong reaction to this also in G20. And whether there will be a joint statement or not is for, those who are drafting and negotiating to decide. But it will not in any way really, and we cannot in any way compromise on our solidarity with Ukraine. Our Prime Minister, the Danish Prime Minister, was in fact in Ukraine yesterday, met Prime Minister Zelensky, and gave full support, as we have done from the first day, the very first unfortunate day. So we are really standing with Ukraine.
Ambassador, the European Union now is on record to say that their priority at the G20 in Delhi will not be the joint communication or the joint draft, as it were. It will be Ukraine. In fact, European Union is again making it known to the world and saying it officially that they would have liked India to invite President Zelensky to the summit. Is that a realistic ask, given India's relationship with Russia, even though the Russian president decided not to show up?
Yeah.
He should have.
Yeah, but Zelensky attended the G7 summit in Japan. He came there. He also met your Honorable Prime Minister, who was attending that as a guest country. I would not, it's not for me to decide why India did or did not invite Zelensky. It's important that India is also understanding the context of geopolitics, and for the Europeans and for the West to have an unprovoked war is really something extraordinarily wrong and bad. So we need to have a strong reaction to that. Whether he should have been here, it's for the Indian presidency to decide would they like to have it, but I'm pretty sure that it would have created even a harsher rift and gap as to the G20 summit. But it's the choice of the Indian presidency, and they have their good reasons, I believe, I know, of not inviting him.
What about President Xi Jinping? Again, big mystery. They don't say yes, they don't say no, and then a week before the summit they say, okay, he's not coming. Why do you think that is happening? Is it just because of, the standoff between India and China in eastern Ladakh for the last 3 years? Is there more? What is China trying to say here?
Yeah, this is a leader summit, so obviously and ideally also President Xi should have been here. He made a decision not to come. Whether it's snubbing India, it's for others to decide. But I think he should have been here. But on the other hand, I don't think it's bad for India. India will emerge as a real leader of the global south. And given the agenda, all the objectives laid out, all the initiatives, 10 or 15 initiatives trying to make a more inclusive global agenda, India will stand out and set the directions. And I've said early on, India holds the global compass, and now with all the good initiatives, all the good deliberations in all the different working groups and ministerials, now we have a needle in our compass setting the direction for a better, more inclusive, green and sustainable world. We should be very appreciative of that. I'd like to thank India. So, Bharat ko shubhkamnaएं.
Bharat ko shubhkamnaएं. You didn't say India ko shubhkamnaएं because there's a controversy raging on. We know which side you're on.
Wrong. I don't. You can do whatever. You can
no,
your constitution. You have your constitution there.
Yes, we have a constitution there, and,
and that's I have my own copy.
I know, I see it, and what I tell everyone, is that just open the constitution and see Article 1.
Yeah,
it says
exactly.
India, that is Bharat.
Yeah.
So we are India and we are Bharat. We don't have to choose.
And I have no hard feelings about X, Y, Z. It's
yes,
for
neither do
India
I.
to decide. I love the word Bharat, I love the word India, but more importantly, I love the role of India globally.
I say a rose by any other name will smell as sweet. So
exactly. Yeah.
so you can call it Bharat or India. If it's your country, you'll love it as much. But as we wrap this interview, can I ask you what you're expecting? What should ideally be the outcome of this G20 summit for the world and for India? What is your hope from this summit?
My hope and our hope is that we, for the first time ever, also given the experiences from the COVID and of course taking into account the all devastating consequence of the Ukraine war, that despite all of that, but also inspired by that, we will see a global answer to global challenges. And we'll see how India, with the support of all the G20 countries, hopefully, or the majority of them, will be able to build a bridge and narrow the gap between the South and the North, and basically between the poor and the rich. We cannot afford to wait any longer. We have to take actions away from words to actions. And India is not dividing, but India is uniting. And that is what should come out of the G20 presidency. And I'm pretty sure when we are sitting late Sunday afternoon or early evening, we'll see India did it, made it. So it's not make in India, but make India great in the world.
Thank you so much, Ambassador. What a pleasure it has been speaking to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.